What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you my top 7 favorite CRPGs. So a while back in, I believe it was June or July of 2021, I made a version of this exact video. It did pretty well, but 2021 was actually a fantastic year for CRPGs, as well as the fact that I actually went through and played and reviewed many a CRPG as well. So I decided it was finally time to revisit this subject, but that said, before we actually jump in here, this is just my personal preference. These are the CRPGs that mean the most to me, and reality is there are a ton of amazing CRPGs out there, and if there's one not on this list that you want to call out in the comment section below that you think is great, chances are I think it's great as well, it's just not my favorite. That said, I have played and reviewed many a CRPG. This is primarily a CRPG channel, though I do play and review tons of video games these days. I like to stick to my roots and really dig into CRPGs. And because of that, if you look on my channel, you'll probably find reviews for all of these games on this list, obviously, as well as any other CRPG that might spring to mind. Though I do have a few notable exceptions I'm still missing, such as Temple of Elemental Evil, a couple in the Shadowrun series that I'm working through right now, etc. But with no further ado, let's jump right into this. In our number 7 spot, we have Underrail. Now, Underrail is a tremendous CRPG. There's a ton of player agency, there's a lot of being able to play how you want via builds or actual options you can take. You can, of course, just start shooting up the place. And in fact, there's plenty of ways you can cause yourself so many problems that you might need to reset. And ultimately, while I do love Underrail, it does in fact suffer from, in my opinion, some outdated quest design and some things that almost feel intentionally frustrating. And because of that, it ultimately ranks pretty low on the list. But in terms of modern CRPGs, it's an amazing entry, and if you like the first 2 Fallout games, you'll probably like this as well. And there is very easily 100+ hours of content in that game. But moving on to our next entry, in the number 6 spot, we have Baldur's Gate 1, the Enhanced Edition. Now, Baldur's Gate actually didn't make it onto my original list at all, because while I had played it back in the day, it had been, more than 10+ years. So I actually recently dived into the Enhanced Edition to do a review in 2021 for it, and I fell in love with the title all over again. I actually did Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, but personally I prefer Baldur's Gate 1 quite a bit. I enjoy how the world building works, I enjoy how they did their map system, which is one change I did not like from Baldur's Gate 2, is how they kind of did that fast travel map. Whereas in Baldur's Gate 1, it actually feels like you're navigating the Sword Coast. And again, me personally, I just enjoy the story from the first game more so than the second one. And that brings us to our number 5 spot. Here we have Pillars of Eternity 2. Now, I did a very successful review of Pillars of Eternity 2, actually. I've also done a story series for it, and it's very safe to say it's one of my favorite universes as well as CRPGs. However, while I do really enjoy it, it's one of those games where you kind of have to be really dedicated to it. It, in my opinion, can be a little dry here and there, which tends to put people off. The pirate aesthetic has a way of wearing a little thin. The main story is almost a footnote compared to the side content, which feels a little strange. All of those things keep it out of the top spot. But as a CRPG, I do think it's excellent, and I do really love the world of Eora that was built to make those games. Now, in our number 4 spot, we have another Obsidian title, and that is Tyranny. I love Tyranny. It's very cool. You get to explore a very well-built world that is a little hard to explain in such a short time frame, but again, I've done reviews of all of these. It is a game where your actions have consequences. There's, I believe, 4 or 5 paths actually through the game. And while some of the core content remains the same, your approach and your reason for being there will change, which gives it a ton of replayability, and each one of those paths you're looking at like maybe 20-ish hours. But combine that with one of my favorite magic systems in video games, actually, and you have yourself a number 4 spot. So with no further ado, moving on to the number 3 spot, we have Wasteland 3. I love Wasteland 3. I have wrote a lot of guides for it, character builds, I've live streamed it. I'm a very big fan of Wasteland 3. The setting is pretty solid, the post-apocalypse, you're in a nuclear winter Colorado, basically. But a couple of the things Wasteland 3 does really well is, for starters, the combat. It is turn-based, however, I think they did a very good job making the turn-based combat in Wasteland 3 still feel very engaged and involved, as turn-based in general tends to be very slow and methodical, which kind of puts some people off. I think Wasteland 3 specifically did a fantastic job of making turn-based very action-packed, which is a weird thing to say, to be honest. But you combine that with some of the up-close conversations you can have with certain key story NPCs, which I think really add to the game, and honestly, just an amazing soundtrack even. And Wasteland 3 is just a CRPG that I think more people should check out. It's a fantastic game. And then in our number 2 spot, we have Divinity Original Sin 2. The Divinity series is kind of the backbone of this channel, or at least it was for a long time. To this day, if you search Divinity lore, you're going to find nothing but my videos on Divinity. All of those videos are getting a bit old. I mean, some of them are actually getting pretty dated. Some of them are from all the way back in 2017. But my point is that I have loved Original Sin 2 for a very long time, and I have loved the Divinity series as well, as I've covered literally every game in that series as a result of my love for Original Sin 2. But I really enjoy the reactivity and how it always seems prepared to adjust to your approach and how you want to address things, whether that be killing everything or, in some cases, just cheesing your way around encounters. The game always seems prepared to handle that. And while it does have its weak points, such as an abysmal inventory, the weird physical and magic armor system, it nonetheless remains one of my favorite games and is in large part, in combination with the next title, responsible for kicking this channel's existence off, basically. And, naturally, in the number 1 spot, we have Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. Now, I have covered this game to death. I have made videos about all the class mechanics, all of the mythic paths. On launch day, I was actually able to use my review copy of this game to put up, I believe it was 8 or 9 videos on launch day about how to unlock each mythic path. And then I got to watch as several news sites that also publish these types of guides took my work and didn't credit it at all, but here we are. But my point is, I covered this game extensively. I wound up playing it for, in total, including the beta, launch review copy, as well as the full release, for probably about 650 hours before I did a review after 100%. I ran through all of the mythic paths, all of the endings, the secret endings, all of that stuff. And despite all that, I will still occasionally fire it up, make a build, because I just love this game and the mechanics in place, especially the mythic paths and how they affect the story. And there's just so much room for role-playing in this game that I really do love it. That said, I'll be the first person to tell you that whatever Owlcat Games' follow-up is going to have a very steep hill to climb. Because realistically, unless they pick a game that also has mythic paths in it, I think the downgrade in power in the next Pathfinder RPG, if there is one, though I don't see why there wouldn't be, is probably going to feel like a bit of a downgrade coming off of Wrath of the Righteous. But that said, honestly, Wrath is just a tremendous game. I have played it to death. I continue to play it. The channel has seen tremendous growth because of it, and I think I'd be lying to myself and everyone else if I said it wasn't my favorite. All of that said, there are my top 7 favorite CRPGs, guys. By all means, tell me your favorites down below. I love to hear about that stuff. Even if you don't agree with me, that's fine. It's just personal taste at the end of the day. Regardless of that, though, truly, thank you so much for watching. May you wander in wisdom, and have an amazing day.